Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This episode, we're just gonna say it. You may or may not want to listen. It may or may not be valuable to you, because Dana and I, for the last 40 minutes, have been just trying to debrief about how absolutely beeping, beep, beep,
Yeah.
beep. I'm just beeping myself so I don't have to do it in post.
Yep.
Life can
Is
be
right
and
now.
currently
Yeah.
is, because
Yeah.
it's just one bleeping effing
Yeah.
thing after another.
Yeah. Well, you broke your toe, right?
Yes.
Hit your toe on
Yes,
something.
after Dana and I had been talking about the buildup of stress and
Yeah.
what can happen and being good to ourselves and giving ourselves more like just space and real estate. And
Hmm.
I was so preoccupied in my mind because I'm moving back into a home
Yeah.
that literally is in the middle of nothing.
Armageddon land of burned
Okay.
down. Yeah.
Um, as I can be when I go into survival mode, I basically turn into my mind and just put my head down and get
Yeah.
S done. And I jammed my toe up against the side of a door frame. And when it immediately swells and bruises,
Yeah. Pretty
it's a good
sure.
indicator that.
Pretty bad. Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And then I had this experience at the doctor, where I had a doctor who is probably half the age of me and probably honestly did their rotations during COVID. I'm not really sure.
Oh yeah. Right. Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
it was one of the most, it was one of the weirdest uh appointments I've had, where I don't really feel like really bedside manner was thought
No.
about, like, at
No.
all. And
No.
having it be a yearly examination for a woman, where we're literally poked and prodded in every
Yeah. Yeah.
place
Yeah.
imaginable, and that's not kind of honored at
No.
all.
Yeah.
Plus, by the way, I didn't say this to you earlier, Dina. I'm like trying to figure stuff out, and I was sub threshold on multiple like labs and
Yeah. Yeah.
things that I was not able to also get interventions and treatments that I felt like could be helpful for me at this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I they were like, "Well, the number for that is 30
Hmm.
and you're 28.91."
Oh God.
And
See,
I
that's
said,
that
"Yes."
sort of like, yeah, that Western medicine. If it's not in past a certain threshold, even if it's like a wisp away from it, we won't do what it's just save money. They're just
Right.
sort of being rigid about it. But that sense of
So,
the
yeah.
maybe this episode is actually about things you can and can't control. And right now, there's so much about that we can't control. I mean, breaking your toe, it happens. It's over with. There's nothing they can do about it, right? You
Nothing
have to live
nothing
with
to
it while it
do.
heals. And then things like that. I've seen so many stories and videos and things like that of people going to the doctor, especially women, and not getting their needs met. Or how many stories I've seen on TikTok of women who've spent years telling different doctors that something's going on, to have all of them say, no, it's fine. And then a doctor finally does take them seriously and they have a surgery and they have endometriosis everywhere in their abdomen that didn't just show up like yesterday. And that sense of how are you seen in your angst, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that's so hard right now is with the political climate. People you can talk to about certain things and people you can't, because you don't want to get it too flared up. So how do you manage dealing with all of that at the same time you want to process? Like I was telling you before we went on yesterday, so it's like around 3 o'clock. I was like, I feel like I'm on the edge of like a full blown panic attack. What the?
Yeah.
And I don't have those that often. Like, what the hell is going on? And then I finally just told my wife, and she's like, "Oh, okay, what do you need?" And I'm like, "I think I just need to put it out there." And we were both really talking about the kind of continual news cycle and things that stress you out. It's not like it was 20 years ago where there'd be like one bombshell story every 6 months. It's like multiple bombshell stories every day. And that's what sort of reminds me of people trying to navigate through a medical system, let's say. It
Mhm.
really is like you're on a hill and you have to make sure none of these bowling balls coming down the hill get behind you. So you start grabbing them and then they start coming faster and faster and faster and faster. Some are going to get past you, right?
Yeah.
So how do you then, I mean, if I stretch that metaphor out, what is the repercussion of some of those getting behind you? If it means you're going to die, something's really high stakes, you would certainly say that be a high degree of anxiety. If you have something like a disability where you're not able to move as fast and get those bowling balls, so there can be all these like idiosyncratic things that are unique to you that can make you not be able to manage that stress, right? So you were talking about these things that were like sub threshold. It kind of reminds me of something like a medical test that says if you're 3.98 but you have to be 4 to get treatment, is like this artificial construct, and then you're not seeing that human anymore, right?
Yeah.
It just says no, you haven't met that, you can't do that. And that sense of unfairness around that, and a sense of not seeing the individual for their combination of things that are stressing them out. I downloaded an article about 3 weeks ago that's been sitting on my laptop that I wanted to read and do some awake project posts for it, some memes on it. And as I was reading it, it was about newly discovered genetic components of autism. And I was like, okay, read the article. And what it came down to is they were saying it's multimodal. And even you can have some genes that are turned on. One person could go through this set of circumstances where someone else goes through this, and the expression could look different. And
Yeah.
I was like, I was so pissed because those kinds of articles are really hard to read, all the medical terminology. And I get to the end of it, and I'm like, duh. But then
Everyone knows this
I had to
already.
take a step back, and I'm like, why is everybody so like fawning over this article? Oh, because it's a peer reviewed, big, a lot of N article that is basically that's in a prestigious journal that now is finally saying it depends, right? That we say so much on the show, that there's so many things that go into it, right?
Yeah.
So that stress and that sense of stress, it really is a moving target more than I think maybe we've emphasized on here before. We've talked about how to empty your bucket, how to do good things for yourself, how to recognize that. But that sense of it's so different all the time, I think is the thing that inordinately makes it harder to deal with. Why am I okay on some days with this particular stressor? I burn the toast, let's say. And then the next day I burn the toast and I have a full blown meltdown, and I don't eat a lot of toast, by the way, and I don't burn it, but that's just, popped in my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
To the outsider, they might say, what is wrong with you? Because you didn't have a meltdown about this yesterday. Why are you melting down about it now? Especially like in kids, right? Because you're just not seeing all those other things stacking up that people aren't aware of and don't know those things are there. Those
Yeah.
those accumulation of bowling balls that are bearing down on you, about to knock you on your butt.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know. And I think it's like, this kind of goes back to our feel of like stress
Hmm.
and what's stressing us out, right? Or what are the
Yeah.
demands? What's the load? And when you're carrying a heavy load all the time, little things are going to feel proportionally big because
Hmm.
you are already taxed. You don't have
Yeah.
much left.
Yeah.
And I think it's like this sense also of just being in that, and I talk about this with my clients a lot, but the idea of
Mm.
like being a tweener, like
Yeah.
the tweener piece where it's like, gosh, I'm sub threshold. I'm sub threshold
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
so many things. And I know that, we were talking about procrastination and stuff, like clearly like that's not an uncommon thing in teenagers,
Yeah. Hmm.
and things, but that doesn't mean that we don't kind of support or help or say, and I'm really kind of tired of this and hearing this. If we don't like it's this balance of, well, they're gonna have to learn at some point,
Mm, mhm,
um, and coddling. It's
oh,
like
yeah,
there's
yeah.
something in the middle there,
Yeah.
and when I talk to parents about how to transfer responsibility over to a kiddo, and I think the
Mhm.
reason why, I've got my side, not only do I care a lot about my kid, but she's about to launch into
Sure.
college.
Mhm.
We've got one more year, and then she's kind of on to this next place. So I've been really kind of thinking more about and being really, I think, more intentional. Not that I'm not
Yeah.
usually, but about preparing, making sure I'm doing everything I can to lovingly kind of prepare her for the
Mhm.
transition.
Mhm.
um and so the idea of that is, how do I not pathologize, and
Mhm.
how do I meet and support? But with my clients, a lot of times too, when I'll go back to like transferring responsibility and helping build, skills in
Mhm.
our kids, is this idea of like a very simple, like in teaching, the I do, we do, you do.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think a lot of times, parents, we spend a lot of time in the I do, I do, I do for you, because
Mm,
clearly, like, I
mhm.
need to do that for you because you're
Right.
small and you don't have those
Yeah.
skills yet. To you do it now. What the
Yeah.
heck? Why
Yeah.
aren't you
Yeah. What
doing
about
it?
the we do? Yeah.
But we never
Yeah.
spent time in the we do. And so I feel like that's like the
Mhm.
weird, fluffy, squishy space that
Yeah.
we don't tolerate well,
Yeah.
because we're frustrated there, and parents
Yeah.
are frustrated and stressed by their kids and stuff. But we also don't like to see our kids suffer,
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
Exactly.
I'll say that's hard for me. I really have to manage myself in the context of that, and respect the space that she
Mhm.
needs to suffer in the ways that she needs to experience
Mhm.
her own life, like,
Mhm.
without me meddling all the time, and
Right.
trusting that she'll come to me if she needs something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, offering it when I see it and then letting it go,
Yeah.
like, so
Yeah.
there's all these pieces, but I find like the frustration of managing the system back to what's in my control, what's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
That there, what's hard, I think, is when there are factors that you cannot control
Yeah.
that impact you,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
have an impact on you. What the hell do you do with it then? You
Yeah, it's so
know?
interesting because I was talking to a client of mine yesterday, who's done a lot of really good work, and we were talking about some issues that were sort of the same as they've always been that he'd been stuck on for a while, but he had a totally different perspective for it now, and was wondering why. And that person has been in a 12-step program for a year, and you can start to see, that work really emphasizes letting go, but also, knowing what you can and can't control. It's like, give me the courage to change the things I can, not change the ones I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that sense of um, global kind of a pressing down on things that you can't control. You don't want to become cavalier and just not care at all, and then
Yeah.
like the metaphor would be like if you let a kid wander in traffic, well, they'll learn. No, they'll be killed probably, but so how do you figure out your own place of safety in relation to that thing? And like for me, when my anxiety ramped up yesterday, it really was more of this unnamed sense of there's nothing I can do about it, right? And it keeps continuing, and there's nothing I can do about it. And that my soothing tends to be now, if we're talking about the political climate, is there. I know there are people out there that have the skills to do X, Y, and Z, and they're fighting this. I just don't see it happening, And then you see those happening once in a while. But the reality of the anxiety when you can't be efficacious against something is real. And I think about people that are neurodivergent and either haven't been diagnosed yet, or newly diagnosed, or haven't had the we yet. So people are like, okay, what are you doing wrong? And then all of a sudden you get a diagnosis. They're like, okay, it's all about autism. And now they expect you to have all of this new frame to do everything okay now. And it's like, no, it just, what we're doing is resetting the frame so people can understand why those things happen, right?
Yep.
And what's going on. And that so many of these podcasts we've done where the limiting factor is the environment, and by environment I mean people in the environment, oppressive forces in the environment that don't understand and aren't helping, or are frustrated. Why doesn't my kid just sit down and do their homework? I don't understand. There isn't enough of that. When you say the we, I think a lot of the we in psychotherapy is understanding the whys, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's why for individual clients, for me, for adults, it's so helpful to know why I'm doing this. Parents' curve is to help their kids, but also to understand why are they doing X, Y, and Z, right? I've mentioned the documentary in here called Disruptors that follows, I think it's like 5 different kids that have been diagnosed ADHD and their family units around that. And it ranges everything from, I think this is not a real thing, I'm not going to medicate my kid, they need to tough through it, which has a heavy cultural press for that particular family, all the way to let's medicate them, let's let them do whatever they want, that sort of thing, and everything in between. But to me, when things really shift for all 5 of those kids is when their families start to see them differently and
Yeah.
start to acknowledge it and say, oh, this is a thing. I talked a lot on the show about how I have EDS, and my wife and I'll go on walks sometimes, and a lake that's near us has a big, long walking path. And every once in a while, the path isn't perfectly flat and straight, especially if it's an area where there's tree roots and I'm kind of doing this. And last time we went, I explained to my wife my more conscious knowing of why that's so hard. I said, so for you, when you walk over that stuff, your ligaments and tendons keep your bones where they're supposed to be and your joints where they're supposed to be. For me, it's my muscles having to take over, and there's always that threat of if it goes too far, I'm going to pull something out of alignment, or I'm going to hurt myself or something. So you have to understand when I'm doing that sort of thing, I don't have that experience that you do. It's like climbing Mount Everest, and every move I make, my body's having to do it in a different way, and the muscles are having to do that work. And then I could see a light bulb go on in her head, like, oh, right. Then the next time we would go, there was more understanding, and I could just see, not that she was ever irritated with me, but I could see a little more understanding. At one point I said, can we just walk a little bit slower? Oh yeah. And that sense of that changes everything. I mean, that's understanding the whys,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's what's really so hard about the political climate now is there's so many, this makes no sense. And there's so many, or this only makes sense if you're coming from a place of kind of pure evil. You want to hurt people, you want to marginalize people, you want to take away supports, all this kind of stuff. It doesn't make sense. I mean, in my mind, as an autistic person, that's hard, because if something doesn't feel just, it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But I'll actually try to figure out, like, all right, if I thought that way, could I see it that way? And I cannot slip on those shoes no matter how hard I try. So that continues to have that angst stay the way it is. And then I was talking to you before we went on, a conversation with my dad, who's a straight, white, hetero, fairly well-off man who has all these variables of privilege, except age now. Talking to him about a couple things and trying to set him straight on what the real issues are, and him going, oh, I didn't know that. And me saying, okay, then don't render an opinion when you don't know the facts, right? And that's what makes me crazy, is that there's all these things where people render opinion without knowing the facts. One more point, and then I'll stop, get off my soapbox. I just got done teaching this quarter group therapy class that I teach. And my early work in doing therapy, even before I got my doctorate, I was trained on facilitating group therapy. So that's like my earliest experience as a therapist. And a lot of what I do is to let the students know, I can come up here and give you like these specific things you can do, reflective listening and using iMessages and all this other kind of stuff. I said, but ultimately, you have to go into it without judgment of the people that are in the group. And that one was really interesting. To me, that's a no brainer. You just don't know what's
Yeah.
going on with them. You don't know what's going on
Yeah.
internally. And they asked a lot of questions, and they're like, well, how do you know what's going on with someone? I said, well, if someone is doing internal work and they're not talking about it, so you think they're not participating, they really are, but you're not privy to it yet.
Yep.
Isn't that sort of the same version of you're rendering an opinion on that person based on what you see versus what's really going on, which is a lot of what like the DSM does. It's observational things. This kid's got a disorder because I'm seeing this, not going internal at all. And that was probably the single biggest thing they grappled with the most was how do I let go? How do I assume, that I don't know what's going on internally if that person isn't sharing it or they're at a layer that can't articulate well or whatever. And I said, you have to just trust the process. It may not be during this session. It may not even be during the work they do with you. It may happen somewhere else. And they really struggle with that. Some kind of driven type A graduate students, I'm like, you just can't make things happen, especially in group. It's the one area you have to let go of that. And as I was reading their final papers, where they're doing a lot of reflective pieces, probably 3/4 of them said that was the hardest part. And I said, they're like, well, how do you know that? How do you get better at it? I said, you have to practice it and you learn that eventually things are going to work out. And that's how I learned to do group therapy. But it is that version of you don't always know what's going on inside someone. If I don't know exactly what's going on inside of me, how the hell are you going to know what's going on inside of me? Right. So we talk about awareness, but even throwing the word awareness out there is so easy for us to just say.
Yeah.
Getting in touch with and knowing these aspects of yourself is it's hard to do. And in a way, it should be a private thing until you're ready to talk about it. Journaling, doing various exercises. Maybe they're available online that you're taking inventories and things like that of what's going on. But we live in a culture that I love the example you used, which was, I do it, you do it, rather than we do it. And the first thing I thought of was my wife when she's showing me something on the computer that I don't know yet, because she used to be a third grade teacher. I think that's where she sort of got this. She
Yeah.
doesn't just show me and then say, okay, now you do it. She has me sit at the computer, stands over here and says, now click on that thing down there. And then she'll explain to me why I'm doing that. Right. And it is the we, really, because she's walking me through it. I don't learn if she just says, do this, this, and this. Right. And there's so much of that we don't do. And I think that's kind of what therapy is, isn't it? It's the we.
Yeah.
I see this in you. What do you think? Et cetera, et cetera. And so even as you were sharing that example, I think about so many people I've worked with and in my own work, there was never we growing up.
Oh,
It was like, oh, drop you in the deep end. If you don't swim, too bad for you. Okay. You're talking about getting ready to take and I'm hearing a lot of stories of people taking their kids to college now. And I'm like, I got a ride with a friend of mine. My parents didn't even take me. In fact, I don't even think they knew I was leaving on that particular day. There was no we, right? That was just that survival of this is what I'm supposed to do and I'm going to do it, right? And if you have that mindset, how can you possibly learn to be kind to yourself? A lot of these things that we talk so much about on the show. If you've never done a we, now you have to maybe look at doing an internal we. I'm going to be nicer to myself, or geez, I've never done this thing before. I've never skydived, so I'm going to take a class on it and learn how to do it. Or I've never, drawn this thing. I'm going to take a class on it and see how to do it. There's so much about the autism community that the joke is me after I, try anything and I'm not instantly good at it. And then you want to
yeah.
just be like, I can't do it. And maybe that comes out of all that trauma of never being shown the we, because you never felt really connected with and how to do that, right? But everything we learn developmentally, we've had a we in there somewhere. Teachers, parents, whoever have showed us how to do it. Getting grades back, it's a form of we. You get feedback, right?
Yeah. And I was going to say, like, I mean, some of that feedback could be negative
Yeah,
or,
yeah,
awful. And I feel like, I love that, you said like in that we do or like the why, there's
yeah,
an understanding, but also because it's a we, there's an implied relationship.
yeah, exactly.
And if
Yeah.
you don't have a solid relationship, I'm not saying a perfect one. I'm just saying
Mhm.
a solid one,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
trusting and safe one, maybe,
yeah.
that respects both people in the
Mhm.
relationship, right?
Yeah,
Um, then how in the world do you relate to yourself? I mean, that's how we figure out
yeah,
how to relate to ourselves. Actually, I
right.
think through the mirrors of others. And we also like, see that in therapy, right? Like the therapist becomes a mirror
Yeah. Oh,
in
yeah.
many ways to the client. So, we also talked about this in a long time ago session. Um, but that idea of, because the critic is so big a lot of
Mm.
times and the judge is so large
But yeah,
and
yeah,
ominous within people in
yeah,
therapy, this is why for many neurodivergents in my mind, the therapist who's like, you need to do homework. If you
yeah,
don't do
yeah,
homework, that means that you're resistant or you're not motivated for change. Blah,
yeah,
blah, blah, blah,
yeah,
blah, 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 blah.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like, actually, and that is like harmful. I really
yeah.
like
Oh,
flat
yeah,
out now
yeah,
that I've met with many clients who have had those types of therapists. I'm not
yeah.
saying those types of therapists are trying to intentionally do harm. I am
But
saying
it's a
that
slow thought, right? Yeah, yeah.
they are
Mhm.
unintentionally harming a client because
Mhm.
what happens is they're like, well, the therapist is the expert. I
Yeah,
always hear this.
yeah,
Clearly, I am the one that is broken
yeah,
and bad,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Versus like, and parents don't like this, systems don't like this. But when I
yeah.
say my job is really to build one, a different kind of relationship with this person that they've never
Mhm.
had before. And that's going to look a lot like me encouraging.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what it's gonna be. I'm not gonna
Yep.
be that hard-nosed, "If you don't, then you
Mhm,
can't, da da
mhm,
da da
mhm.
da,"
Yeah,
kind of therapist. I'm just not. It's not a good fit, and it's not. Does it take a long time? Yeah, but
yeah,
this person that's coming to me is 35.
yeah.
We've
Took them
had
that long to get where they are, you're not gonna fix it in 3 sessions. Yeah,
right, and so
yeah,
back to, like, this idea of group therapy, right?
yeah,
What can we control? What can we not? Even as therapists, we do not control our clients. We do
yeah,
not
yeah,
control their perceptions, their
yeah.
emotions. What we can control is what kind of space we create. What we
Mhm,
can
mhm.
control, like as much as possible, at least we can influence it. And maybe that's
Right.
what we see. It's like things that we can directly control, right? So,
Mhm.
what I do. Sometimes
Yeah.
I can't even control my thinking.
Right,
That
right, yeah,
that's
yeah.
another thing. Like when I say to clients will say to me, I know I've been told that if I just change the way I think about it, everything will be better. And I was like, I think if you could do that, you would have.
You would have done it, yeah.
But it's really, really clear that that's really challenging and difficult, and that
Mhm.
way you think about something is very important to you.
Yeah, yeah,
There's values, there's underlying values and things.
that's right.
Um,
Yeah.
so as a therapist, I really needed to step away. And the minute I said to myself, whoa, like how arrogant of me
Yeah,
to
right.
believe that I can go in and just fix it.
Yeah, right,
Huh?
right,
I
yeah.
used to think that as a younger clinician, a very young
Oh,
clinician,
uh-huh,
right?
uh-huh.
Oh yeah, I'm the expert. I can come
Yeah.
in, people are coming. It came from good place. I People are coming to me to fix a problem. I'm going to
Mhm,
help them solve
mhm.
that problem. I
Ah,
am
gotcha.
still in that space of, let me help. What is the pain point? What
Mhm.
can I do to ease that pain for you? And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
through lots of different things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Internal nurturing, external behavioral environmental changes. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
kind of working on
yeah.
both at the same time. I'm still in that space, but I'm not as arrogant. I'm not nearly as arrogant as I was
Yeah, yeah,
then.
thinking that you, yeah, know more than they do.
I
Yeah,
could
yeah,
just I had all the magic. I had all
yeah.
the secrets. I had all the things.
Ah,
It's like,
gotcha.
no. And I
No.
do see that in younger clinicians. Like
Yeah.
they think that they're going to walk into, like, so a client's going to walk in and they're going to be like, "Psh."
Yeah.
Gotcha. You know?
Ting. All good. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, clearly, like, even as therapists, like, we're not here to fix people and we're not
Mhm.
here to change people. What we are here
Mhm.
to do is create a space for that person to have
Yeah.
a healthy relationship with themselves and the world.
Yeah, and feel safe, have a space where they can do that, and that's what this again with the group class. I said you have got to be asking permission for things. You have got to
100%.
be unwavering, just supportive. That's how you build that. It's not spill it out, come on, and little things like I say. I never go around a circle and make everybody talk. It's whoever wants to.
Yep.
Oh, but then some people aren't going to talk.
Yep.
Why are we all
They're
hung up on this? Someone has to do this thing. Now you have that one person not feeling safe, and you have everybody else who kind of maybe not feel safe, see what's happening to that person, and now they're not going to do it. Right. Yeah.
it's inherently ableist.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is, if you do not demonstrate X in
Mm-hmm.
this way,
Mm-hmm.
you are not participating, you are not
Yeah.
benefiting, and you
Yeah.
are not whatever, getting better. Whatever
Yeah.
this is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember my group therapy class in grad school was very traumatizing for me.
Yeah. Mine was too,
Um
actually. I learned all
and
my group skills by through mentors that taught me, not in grad school. Uh-huh.
No, and I remember that the therapy, he made us do group therapy first of all for real,
Oh, wow. Yeah, you
which
can't
is
do
a
that.
problem
Yeah.
when you and your colleagues are together and you may not necessarily want to participate in this. And
Mm-hmm.
the exercise was, you are on a sinking ship and you can only save one person, go. Who is it? That was the exercise. And
Myself. Just
it
get
was
out of it.
awful. It
Oh,
was
wow.
absolutely awful. I didn't wanna share, I felt obligated to share,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
honestly, I shared because of my trauma history,
Oh, God.
of just appease, fawn, fawn,
Yep,
fawn, make it better
yep.
for everybody, make it better for everybody. That and the idea of being a good student.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not a
yeah.
good student if I don't participate, right?
Yeah, right,
I
right.
completely blew past all of my warning signals of
Oh,
danger. Wait, no, I don't
yeah,
wanna share this information with
yeah,
my
yeah,
right? So, I think a lot of times this approach gets kind of, named like, "Oh, that's for, like, whamsy-pamsies," and, like, "This is
yeah,
coddling," and da 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 da, when it's like, I think if we actually did more respect of what
yeah,
people's wishes were, they would actually be able to check in with themselves and go, "Yes, no,"
yeah, yeah,
instead of having absolutely no signals about
yeah,
what or how they want to be, or having any say in how
yeah,
they are in the world.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
yeah, more more
That's the
we
thing. I
doing
mean, if you think
people.
about a kid getting, I'm just thinking of like the dinners my mom would make. Occasionally, there'd be things I didn't like. I loved her beef stroganoff, but she put mushrooms in it. And now it's okay for you to pick out the mushrooms.
Mhm.
And then, I just sat there and picked it, where I could see another parent saying, don't pick those out of there. What's wrong with you? But why not just meet them where they're at? It's fine. Right.
I had a similar thing, Dana. Not that, I mean, there's not much food that I don't like, which is
Hmm.
part of my part of my issue. Because I can go for a Taco Bell all the way to a fancy dinner. Like,
Oh, there you go.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm good. But my grandmother, who was a phenomenal cook, probably the best cook of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was influenced a lot. In retrospect and reflection, I probably loved to cook. I love
From
cooking
her.
because of
Yeah.
her. And
Yeah.
she had French level
Hmm.
techniques
Hmm.
without ever having to go to school. Like, I mean, she
Nice.
really
Yeah.
understood how to layer flavor and
Yeah.
bring
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
flavor and to cook things properly.
Yeah.
But she always made fried rice. Clearly, it is the dumping ground of of Asian households in many
Oh,
ways, right? It's
everything's
like,
left
what's
over. Yeah.
left?
Yeah.
Let's put it
Right.
in there. Let's not waste.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing was to always have some ketchup
Oh, okay. Yeah.
with it. I love
Yeah.
ketchup. I
Yeah.
I use ketchup. I dip my pierogies in sour cream and
Yeah.
ketchup. Very gross for some people. Sorry if that grosses
My
you out.
wife's a big ketchup gal.
Love
Yeah.
ketchup, like, love ketchup, and I specifically love Heinz ketchup. Like,
Okay.
it
Yeah.
needs to be a
Yeah.
Heinz
Yep.
anyway, whatever, like so I would always squirt a little bit on the side of my rice and the side of
Yeah.
my noodles, which noodles
Okay.
are also, like in my household, fried noodles were also in that space of, like,
Yeah. Catch
gotta get
all
rid of
stuff.
veg,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's get rid
Gotcha.
of it, throw some
Yep.
eggs in there, we're good, right? Like, kinda
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
And man, she would be incensed. It was like a
Oh.
personal attack
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
her core.
That you were getting, yeah. Putting
And it
ketchup on
wasn't
something.
because I didn't love her cooking, it's
Yeah.
because for me, the experience was even better.
Yeah. And that's, but then there's the we and the why, right? So
Yeah,
someone sat down long enough and
yeah,
got that, like you were talking about that thing, you can only save one person go. You could use that in a different way, which would totally morph it into what we're talking about. Instead of saying you can only pick one person, now say who it is. If you could only pick one person, don't tell us who it is. How would it make you feel? Now you've got a totally different perspective on the same exercise, and people could talk about their, like, I'm a responsible person, I would feel terrible that I can't save everybody, and whatever that
right?
is. Now you're in the we, you're in the good stuff, right? Not just here's this thing, do it, go, right? It's about getting to know. Yeah.
Yeah. For all of
So,
you psychology professors out there in grad
yeah.
school programs, please don't
Oh
in your
God.
in your
My
group
group class,
therapy.
I reported the group instructor to the dean because she had someone picking up a chair and throwing it across the room. And I had had training on how to do those sorts of things really safely with props and bolsters and stuff. And then she wasn't there after that quarter. So we both had traumatizing group therapy
Oh,
classes that we
yeah.
had to take. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was just one story. I mean, the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
quarter
Oh, God.
was, that kind of thing every time.
Yeah. Yeah. So just because someone's a parent or a doctor or a caretaker or whatever doesn't mean they know what's best for you. Partner, this is about you starting to learn what is best for you and then doing that,
Yeah.
an internal version of that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, guys. Well, we did it. I mean, Dana and I did. I feel much better, Dana.
Yeah, I do
Thank you,
too. Yeah.
everyone. All right, everyone. We will catch you in the next episode. Be good to you. Be good to others. And we will see you later. Bye.
Bye.